Hi, and welcome back to Right Here, Right Now. I have a special guest with me today from the Kitchener-Waterloo area, Robert Mullins. And Robert is a gardener. What's really important about that is he's not gardening on a farm, okay? He's gardening in his urban area, in his community, in his neighborhood, basically on his property. So what I'm going to ask Robert to share with us today is how did he start gardening? Why is gardening so important to him? And what does he feel people that are living in the city, how can they benefit from gardening?
Well, first of all, it's good exercise. It's nice to be able to grow your own fruits and vegetables, um, as well as getting outside and working with other people who might have small gardens like myself.
And okay, so are you from a gardening family? What inspired you?
Oh, that's a good question. I can remember back when I was 5 years old. I used to visit with my mother, our grandparents. They were from a French heritage, and they literally had to grow their vegetables in order to survive. And I can still remember when I was a young kid, my grandfather would bring us out to his rather large garden, so a little bit more than what I have right now. And he'd have us pull carrots and stuff like that and clean it up and bring it to grandma and stuff like that. So I think that alone always stuck with me. My mother as well, when we had a house, she also used to garden. She was only one of six that actually continued with the gardening. So as you can imagine, like in the 50s and 60s, it wasn't a necessity to grow your own food. But nonetheless, I always dreamed of having a house where I could, have like a backyard garden and whatnot. And so after living in apartments for about 20 years, I finally got that honor to be able to put some raised bed gardens together. And it's nice being able to share your bounty with other people. I get a lot of good comments. So like for my work, so my partner and I, we've got our garden put together. And so some mornings I'll take out a couple of cucumbers, a couple of tomatoes, bring them into work, and people just love it. It's nice and fresh. It tastes really good and what have you. So there's a lot of benefits.
Okay, can you share with us some of the things that you do grow in your garden, Robert?
Well, I grow, I call them the cash crops, okay, ones that you'd pay a lot more money at the grocery store, as well as ones that I prefer to eat. But tomatoes, cucumbers are probably my two prime vegetables that I grow.
And Robert, let's just say I know nothing about gardening. I live in the city, but I have a backyard, I got side, I've got some land. How do I start? What do I do?
It's really quite simple. Uh, I would, for somebody maybe first starting off, I would recommend putting a raised bed together. So basically, it's just four pieces of wood that you can nail together, or you can spend a few extra dollars and maybe get some type of kit. So determine what you want to grow, and that might determine how many raised beds or whatever room you might have to put together. And it's very simple. So maybe as a novice, you can go out and buy the tomato seedlings or cucumber seedlings and just start with that. And it's pretty easy to grow after that. You're just making sure you water it and stuff like that, and you might have to stake it at some point.
I was talking to you a little bit earlier before the show, and you told me that you really enjoyed making smoothies from some of the things in your garden. What's one of the things you put together from the garden to make these great smoothies of yours?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Or actually, we started growing kale the year before. Uh, I found that it wasn't as tasty as lettuce and what have you, so we grew a fair amount, didn't really eat a whole lot. But kale has a lot of benefits. It's very rich in certain, uh, sorry, So this year I decided to get more involved in making smoothies, and I found that kale from the garden was a good one to put in. And even if you got a couple of little cherry tomatoes that might fall off, you can always throw that in your smoothie.
Is there anything else you want us to know about urban gardening, Robert, before we let you go?
Well, the only thing I can say is it's pretty easy to set up. A little bit of work, but you get some exercise out of it, and you have that. You can sort of say to yourself that I actually, when you're eating, say, like a tomato sandwich, you can say, I actually grew that tomato.
I think that's pretty special. Robert, I want to take the time to thank you so much for coming on my show, for sharing the space on my couch, and for anybody out there that's interested in gardening in their community. Read a few gardening books. There's some great magazines out there. Your local grocery store sometimes actually carry little herbs, little things that you could start off with maybe inside your home. You could go online, look into indoor gardening, balcony garden, backyard yard gardening. Gardening is a lot of fun, and you don't have to be a farmer to do it. Thank you so much for joining me again on Right Here, Right Now, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Happy gardening, everybody. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. It was a pleasure.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Bye, everybody.
Bye.